Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is very early in the morning. I only have now to record while my daughter is still asleep because we are leaving to go visit one of my oldest friends. She just had twins and she lives out in London, Ontario, so it's quite a drive away. But I am very, very excited to see her. We've been friends for about 14 years, so very, very, very excited to see her and her new little bundles of joy. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time. Like I said, it's very early in the morning. I'm just drinking my coffee. Feel free to join me in a cup of coffee. And yes, we are feeling those fall vibes, even though it is really hot here in Canada. We are about to enter another heat wave, but I'm just feeling those fall vibes right now. Let me know in the comment section below if you are also feeling those fall vibes. I don't care, I'm gonna die on this hill. So I recently went back to an older job. If you guys have been watching me for quite some time, you probably remember I used to be working, I worked at an office part-time right after my maternity leave, and then I picked up a contract at another office full-time. So I'm now back to my part-time job, and then they gave me another part-time job at the same office. So I'm now basically working full-time, just in two different roles. So that's been really interesting, to say the least. So we're just trying to figure out that situation out, and it's interesting to be back to work after having some time off. So I was like in between contracts. So we're just trying to figure that out, and my schedule is very hectic right now. So I'm actually recording these videos a week in advance. By the time you get them, it's actually been a week later. So just trying to figure everything out in the meantime, and this seems to be working, at least for now. Before we get into the video, I did want to mention, before I forget, I now offer weekly general readings for the collective, and that's over on my Instagram. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. I always link my Instagram in the description box below. So let's get on to the main topic. So forgive me, you will see me reviewing my notes. I do have quite a few notes on this topic. So today I really wanted to dive into the topic of archetypes. This video was requested by a wonderful viewer. Thank you so much for requesting this video for this topic. It's an incredible topic. If you're not new to my channel, you know I work very closely with archetypes. And you'll see a bunch of these videos coming up on my channel as I'm slowly getting through all my viewer requests. But I did want to preface that when I'm talking about archetypes today, I am going to be talking about the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Kim Krantz. I have gotten to know this deck quite well. I think that archetypes are, well, this is it's a very complicated topic. This is something that I've taken a lot of time to get to know. And this is also, you have to keep in mind that this is also my personal experience. They're filtered through my intuition predominantly. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I'm a very intuitive, psychic, tarot and oracle reader. I will always listen to my intuition first. And that's just what works for me. I also want to preface that I work a lot with astrology archetypally as well. So when I do go over some of these cards that I did want to go over with you, you will hear a little bit about that as well. So a little background information about me. I've been studying astrology since I was, I think, about 11 or 12 years old. I'm now 34. So I know a lot of information about astrology. I don't know everything about astrology. You'd be surprised. I will still learn new things here and there. I just learned something new actually a little while ago. So it's funny, especially as things change and evolve, like with everything, astrology is no different. So I find that my guides like to communicate a lot with me using astrology. So I do find that when I do work with archetypes, there is some involvement with astrology, and that's just, I think, because of my knowledge, my experience. My guides know that they can communicate with me using astrology, archetypally, and the celestial bodies as well. I also wanted to preface that when I learn how to work with oracle and tarot archetypes as well, they're no different. A lot of how I experience the information intuitively, I can, especially when I'm reading for others, I can pick up on their emotions when I'm reading the cards. I can literally feel what they are feeling, which I think is very helpful when I'm reading for others. Another way that my guides like to give me information is, and this is really hard to explain. I want to know if any more of you experience this as well when you're reading cards, especially for other people. But I will experience thoughts, but they're a different frequency than my own. They're faster and they're more gentle. And I will, excuse me, I don't know what's going on with my throat here. But they will, so they're faster and they're gentler, and it'll be certain words, it'll be somebody's astrological sign or dominant planet. It'll be sometimes it'll be information that I've requested. If I just throw a question out there, I will experience the answer as a separate thought from my own. So, and I know they're not my thoughts, again, because they're a different frequency and they just feel different. Usually they will accompany a feeling that I can only describe as my intuition. I'm sure you guys have all experienced that. You just get that weird feeling in your gut. And sometimes I will experience a sensation like the hairs on the back of my neck or my arms will stand up. So I just wanted to preface that this is how I receive information. I also have acquired a lot of information online over the years with respects to archetypes. I understand that Carl Jung, I think is how you pronounce his name, he's really the predominant force behind archetypes. He's really the person that brought them forward for the collective. So I do want to preface that I've actually never read any of his works, at least at this point in time. I do plan on picking up a book eventually. There are a couple on my wish list that I'm sort of on the fence about. So it is something that I do want to dive deep into one day, but I do want to just preface that I do predominantly work with archetypes on an intuitive level. And that's sort of how I receive the information from my guides. So why would you, let's say somebody that's new to archetypes, why would you find it particularly helpful to work with archetypes? That is basically one of the questions that I want to answer. We're going to start there. So archetypes, to me, they represent either a minor or a major aspect of our lives. They can also represent personalities, dominant placements in an astrological chart. I've mentioned so many times before how my husband is oftentimes represented by the Magician card in tarot, and that's because the Magician card is ruled by Mercury in astrology. And he has very strong Mercury placements, particularly a Mercury in Virgo. So you will find that when you start working with archetypes, how you read tarot could change, especially as you gain more information on archetypes. So astrological influences could come up, like that one that I just described. So archetypes play an insignificant or significant aspect in our lives. They're themes that are embedded in the human experience. They can affect us as a collective, or even on a conscious level or a subconscious level. You'll find that quite a lot. I see deities kind of interestingly, because I do experience them as archetypes, but I also experience them as energy and presences outside of my own. So from what I've experienced from my conversations with other people in this industry or field of work, they sort of see them as one or the other. So I just wanted to preface that I do see them sort of as an archetype and also a separate entity. Some people see deity as aspects of their higher consciousness. That could be something that you experience. But I kind of see, with respects to how I sense or work with deity, as I guess an aspect, or as an archetype, I should say. I do see them as almost like representatives of that archetype. So for example, I work very closely with Hades. I experience him predominantly as the emperor archetype, as the ruler of the underworld. And we deal a lot with those themes, as well as the death archetype. So you might experience something similar to that. So every archetype comes with very significant lessons. They can dominate personalities. They can explain your career, all that fun stuff. So you could experience that as well. They can explain aspects of your, like I said, your subconscious, your psyche, things that are really embedded in who you are, things that are very embedded in the human experience. Like I said, this is something that they can represent for the majority of the collective. So they can be used to identify personality traits, psychological makeup, major or minor themes in our lives. They can even help us identify what guides have showed up in our lives and why. So I did feel that it was important to give you guys some journal prompts, just some questions to really ask when you are dealing with archetypes, when you really want to dive into this topic. I'm going to start with the first one. How does this archetype appear in myths? Is there anything that sticks out to me about this particular archetype in the myth? What do I intuitively feel about this archetype? How can I incorporate archetypes into my spiritual practice? How can I work with archetypes on my path? So I just felt that these were important questions to ask when you're new to archetypes and you are starting to develop a log or correspondences for each archetype. I recommend that you create a journal. It doesn't have to be a handwritten journal. It can be something like as simple as notes on your phone. You could do an audio or even a video journal, or just, you need something to record what you're intuitively feeling about these archetypes, especially if you're experiencing one that's reoccurring. So I want to start getting into some of the personal archetypes that I've dealt with, and I've also gone ahead and I've asked what archetypes are very significant for my viewers. So I did go ahead and I pulled 3 cards that I think are going to be relevant to a lot of you in your situations. But as you can see from the artwork, I do find that this deck is very easy to read, actually, once you get to know the deck. I found it quite easy to read intuitively. I just needed to really put that time investment into it. I'm not saying that you could experience that. It could be very different from you. Like I said, your guides are going to communicate with you in a way that you can understand. Like I said, my guides understand that I know a lot about astrology, so they do tend to communicate a lot with me via astrology. So I would encourage you to figure out how your guides like to communicate with you. If you have a vast knowledge about something, go with that. Because guaranteed, they're going to contact or communicate with you using that information. Especially if it's something that you know a lot about or you're very interested in. Because we are, as a collective, as a generation, we are so immersed in our cell phones and technology. A lot of us, you know, we hold full-time jobs, we have families. They're going to communicate with you in a way that grabs your attention. So pay attention to those symbols, anything symbolic to you, and pay attention to your intuition as well, because that's going to be really the most important part of all of this. Your intuition is the main way that I feel they can get a hold of you, for a lack of a better word. So let's now get into some of the archetypes that I personally deal with on my path, a lot of the ones that I've personally dealt with. Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah. So the orphan archetype is one that I've dealt very personally with on my path. And I'll just read from my notes. So it represents the inner child internally seeking a connection to mother, father, or parental figure or figures, guardians, feeling a lack or a loss of identity due to unknown family history. And I'm not saying that this doesn't mean that you have a lack of a sense of self. I actually find that a lot of people who do kind of embody this energy have a very strong sense of self because they haven't had that family history. They don't have that they can fall back on. Things that are instilled or driven. With the orphan archetype, I find that they do kind of have that time to really develop their sense of self, or it's quite the opposite. But there's still going to be that feeling or that urge to want to connect with a parental figure, a guardian or some sort of. So that is one that I've felt actually quite strongly in my own story. There's also a sense of abandonment, truly feeling the absence of a parental figure and grieving it. The other archetype that I deal a lot with on my path that I was kind of perplexed about is the womb card. So this card comes up a lot for me. And for the longest time, like, I understood like it could represent anybody with a womb. Basically, it's feminine creative energy, fertility. It can represent creative energy, power, fertility, menstruation, and cycles. Connected to the mother, maiden, and crone, all individuals who have a womb, basically. A container, home protector, nurturer, can grow life or release it. So there's a life and a death cycle. Lately, though, I've had sort of a different kind of experience with this card. I think that it can also represent somebody who has almost an intuitive knowledge and understanding of their body. It can be somebody that can really tune in and understand their body's natural rhythms. They have sort of like a bodily understanding and the cycles that it goes in, if that makes any sense. So I've sort of gotten that lately, that other connection or meaning to this archetype. The desert archetype is another one that I've experienced. I find that a lot of very strong Saturn placements, this card can represent them. Like myself, I know I've spoken a lot about how I'm Pluto dominant. Saturn is another one of my, unfortunately, it's another one of my other dominant planets. I have a lot of Capricorn placements as well, Mars in Capricorn, on top of some other interesting placements. So the desert as an archetype can represent limitations, restrictions, really putting your body, how can I word this? Really pushing yourself to your limits, to your breaking point. It's a place of deep introspection as well as transformation, really pushing yourself to your limits so that you can shed old skins. This archetype is closely connected to Lilith. I greatly experience her as almost a face of this archetype, as particularly that aspect of the myth. At least how I look at it, I see her as being forced to leave Eden. I know some people work with that myth as she chose to leave Eden, but I don't work with that myth particularly that way. I see her as being cast out of Eden and then being in the forest, being in the desert and being forced to learn to stand on her own feet. Really being pushed to the brink of exhaustion and slowly learning her power and how strong she is and that she can overcome anything. So I do, like I said, I do associate the desert archetype with Saturn dominance. A lot of Capricorns can experience this energy. So I do, those are some archetypes that I deal with. Now I want to move on to the ones that I pulled for you guys. So I pulled here the Cave, which is a very interesting archetype. Eros, as well as Venom. I'll just show you the imagery there. So we'll start with the Cave, and I'm just going to preface my notes. So it's connected to the wet, dark womb, a place for preparation to be rebirthed. So this archetype is deeply connected to the crone and to Hecate. So a lot of us sons and daughters of Hecate will frequently experience the cave archetypally. Hecate is connected to the cave, and like I said, I do see it as sort of like this womb, a place you come to as you're about to be rebirthed into the world. So it's representative of a very significant and great transformation. And it's a place of stillness, darkness, a place where you can sort of go within. It can signify a time of great introspection, really seeking the light within the darkness, so to speak. So that's how I really work with that archetype, at least at this point in time. The Venom archetype is a very interesting archetype. I feel a very intense Scorpio energy with this archetype. Venom, to me, archetypally, it's a very dual aspect. It's what can hurt can also heal kind of a thing. And with this archetype, I felt very called to working with the Hades, particularly the Hades abduction of Persephone, how Persephone was abducted and forced into the underworld, and then how she later becomes the queen, so to speak, the queen of her trauma, the underworld really representing her trauma. So like I did say, I do work a lot with astrology, particularly archetypally. So the Scorpio stinger, the sign of Scorpio, represented by the scorpion. By the way, there are many other symbols of Scorpio that I can get into, but not in this video. The scorpion stinger can be a tool used to harm others or to dive deep within into their own underworld, so to speak, their subconscious mind. So a lot of people who interact with this archetype can be incredibly self-destructive. There might be a family or even a personal history with addiction. This is something that I personally deal with. This can be very strong Scorpio placements, Pluto dominant individuals. Some Scorpios themselves as well will interact with this archetype. There's sort of this learning and healing journey that can occur. Anyone who's Pluto dominant, by the way, Pluto is associated with trauma. I want to get into the the diamond reference that we all know about it. You know, if coal is under pressure for long amounts of time, or I guess enough time, it will eventually turn into a diamond. I know it's cliche. So Pluto is associated with cycles of death and rebirth and trauma. So a lot of people who are Pluto dominant with very strong Scorpio placements, basically you've been through hell and you've come back. Not literally, but it is associated with very strong trauma. And the purpose of Pluto dominant individuals are to learn how to heal your trauma and then to share it with the world. A lot of people that are ruled by the death card, for example, which is associated with the sign of Scorpio, their true place in this world is to be a healer. A lot of them work in therapy, trauma therapy. They want to know how the brain works and what makes it tick, so to speak. So there is that thirst for knowledge in that sense. So I find that personally with my own journey, as I've mentioned so much on this channel, I'm Pluto dominant. I have very strong Scorpio placements. I'm a Scorpio rising, Pluto in the first house. My Lilith is in Scorpio, my Pluto's in Scorpio. So lots of very intense placements that have made me Pluto dominant. And with my personal, just my own ruminations on working with Hades personally on my path, or Pluton, Pluto, literally the reason why we go through these really transformative experiences in our lives, I came to the thought that it actually kind of makes sense that the energy that puts you through that underworld can then become a guide for you to navigate your own personal underworld, subconscious, and your trauma. I'm not saying that if you are currently in a situation that is causing you harm, that you should stay. That's not what I'm saying by this. I think that you need to do what you think you need to do. I don't place any judgment on anybody for where they are in life and for their journey. I'm here because I want to help others and bring information forward in a very easily accessible way. There's a lot of stigma placed around people in harmful situations. And as somebody who's grown up in a home where there was a lot of childhood abuse, I don't want you to think that I'm new to these scenarios and situations. I just want to be as polite and understand that this is a very sensitive topic, and I'm not encouraging anything. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do anything. If anything, I'm saying that you should listen to your own intuition and listen to your guides. They're here to help. I just realized that I completely forgot to talk about the Eros archetype. It's actually the next day after the first and last parts of this video were recorded. Please excuse my appearance. I'm actually just getting off work and it's hot as hell in the office. There's no AC right now, so I am just a hot, sweaty mess. But I'll just quickly review my notes on Eros because I do understand that it is relevant to a lot of your journeys. So to me, Eros represents primal urges, desires, and what gets you out of bed in the morning. So to me, I kind of work with this energy very similarly to the Mars placement in astrology. So it's your sex drive, it's how how you express your anger, but it's also your drive, like what gets you out of bed in the morning. So to me, Eros also kind of feels a lot like the devil archetype as well, at least how I work with the devil archetype. There is this more primal or basic instinct quality to Eros, to this energy. I see it as kind of like part of its desire as part of a physical experience. Another thing that kind of comes up when I work with this archetype is how society teaches shame instead of self-acceptance and self-love with respects to our desires, our primal urges or basic instincts, how we feel about our bodies, just all that fun stuff. However, a lot of people do kind of work with this archetype as being this this urge to unite with either the world, the divine, with our souls. So I think that this is a pretty good place to wrap up the video, and I'm interested in what you guys think and how you guys work with archetypes. I hope I also dived into this topic in a way that makes sense, in a way that is easy to consume and digest. Not always easy to do. I'm a Pisces Mercury and I've been told that we sort of speak in tongues, so that's always fun. But I did want to really make this video. I put it high on my priority list, and I'm happy to be able to spread this information, to put it out there in the world, and I'm hoping that I can help some of you with your archetypal journeys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.